At about 12:30 a.m., I woke to the sound of my baby coughing badly. The room was filled with a white cloud. Outside, people were screaming, "Run, run."
Those aren't the words of an actor. They're the memories of a mother describing one of the deadliest industrial disasters in human history. On the night of December 2nd, 1984, nearly 1 million people in Bhopal, India, went to bed believing tomorrow would be like any other. Less than a mile away, inside the Union Carbide pesticide plant, a routine night shift was quietly turning into a catastrophe. A chain reaction had begun inside a storage tank. Pressure was building, safety systems were failing, and within the next hour, a cloud of deadly toxic gas would silently drift across the sleeping city. By sunrise, thousands of people would be dead. Hundreds of thousands more would carry the scars for the rest of their lives. This wasn't a natural disaster. It wasn't an act of war. It was entirely preventable. This is the origin file of the Bhopal Gas Disaster. To understand how thousands of people died in a single night, we first have to understand why a chemical plant was sitting in the middle of a city. In the late 1960s, the American company Union Carbide built a pesticide manufacturing plant on the outskirts of Bhopal, India. At the time, the location made sense. India's agriculture industry was expanding rapidly, and pesticides were seen as essential to increasing crop production. The factory promised jobs, economic growth, and a more modern future. For years, the plant operated as one of the region's largest employers. But as Bhopal grew, something changed. Neighborhoods began spreading toward the factory. Small homes appeared just beyond its walls. Entire families settled within walking distance of tanks filled with highly toxic chemicals. Most had no idea exactly what was being stored just a few hundred yards from where they slept. Among those chemicals was one of the most dangerous substances used in industrial manufacturing, methyl isocyanate, better known as MIC, colorless, highly volatile, and incredibly toxic. Even a small release could cause severe injury. A massive release could devastate an entire city. Yet every night, thousands of gallons of MIC sat inside large storage tanks just beyond the fences of the Union Carbide plant. No one knew that the systems designed to keep those tanks safe were slowly beginning to fail. By the early 1980s, the Union Carbide plant in Bhopal was struggling. Demand for pesticides had fallen, production slowed, and the facility was losing money. To reduce costs, the company began making changes. Maintenance crews were reduced. Experienced workers left and weren't always replaced. Training became less frequent. Routine maintenance was delayed. On paper, each decision may have seemed small, but inside a chemical plant handling one of the world's most dangerous industrial chemicals, small decisions can have enormous consequences. The Bhopal plant relied on multiple layers of protection. If one safety system failed, another was supposed to take over. And if that failed, there was another. It was a philosophy known as layers of defense. But over time, those layers began to disappear. One safety system was operating below its intended effectiveness. Another was unavailable or not fully functional. Others were not in the condition they were originally designed to be individually. None of these problems guaranteed a disaster. Together, they created the conditions for one. And there had already been warning signs. Smaller gas leaks had occurred in previous years. Workers had reported safety concerns. Some local journalists even warned that the plant posed a serious risk if major improvements weren't made. Yet the factory continued operating. Night after night, the tanks remained full, the city kept growing, and just beyond the factory walls, families went to sleep believing they were safe. On the evening of December 2nd, 1984, one routine maintenance task would trigger a chain of events that no one could stop. Just after 10:30 p.m., inside the Union Carbide plant, the night shift had settled into what seemed like another routine evening. Workers moved through their normal duties, valves were checked, equipment was inspected. Nothing appeared out of the ordinary, but somewhere inside the plant, water had begun entering a storage tank containing more than 40 tons of methyl isocyanate, or MIC. Exactly how the water entered the tank has remained a point of investigation and debate. What is clear is what happened next. When water mixed with the MIC, a violent chemical reaction began. Inside the sealed tank, the temperature climbed rapidly. Pressure began to build. The reaction fed itself. The hotter the tank became, the faster the reaction accelerated. Operators noticed something was wrong. The pressure gauges were climbing. The temperature was far higher than it should have been. At first, they believed the instruments had malfunctioned, but within minutes, it became impossible to ignore. The storage tank was becoming a bomb. Workers scrambled to respond. They attempted to reduce the pressure, but the reaction had already reached a point where it could no longer be controlled. As the pressure continued rising, toxic gas forced its way toward the emergency relief system. The first line of defense had failed, then another, and another. Shortly before midnight, the relief valve opened. A massive cloud of poisonous gas burst into the night sky. Carried by a light breeze, it drifted silently beyond the factory walls, toward the city, toward homes, toward families who were already asleep. One survivor, Aziza Sultan, later remembered the moment the gas reached her neighborhood.
At about 12:30 a.m., I woke to the sound of my baby coughing badly. The room was filled with the white cloud. Outside, people were screaming, "Run, run."
Within minutes, the streets of Bhopal were filled with panic. People stumbled from their homes, not knowing what they were running from, only that every breath burned. The nightmare had begun. No one knew what they had just inhaled. Within minutes, people across Bhopal woke gasping for air. Their eyes burned so intensely they could barely open them. Every breath felt like inhaling fire. Parents grabbed their children, neighbors pounded on doors, entire families poured into the streets, desperate to escape a danger they couldn't see. But the toxic cloud was already surrounding them. Many instinctively ran. Others never made it out of their homes. Survivor Champa Devi Shukla later recalled that it felt as if their bodies had been filled with ground red chili peppers. Everywhere she looked, people were coughing, screaming, and running in every direction, while some collapsed in the streets as others unknowingly ran over them in the panic. The roads quickly filled with chaos. Cars became trapped, motorcycles were abandoned, thousands fled on foot, all searching for clean air. No one knew which direction was safe. Hospitals were overwhelmed almost immediately. Doctors and nurses watched wave after wave of patients arrive. Many were struggling to breathe. Others had collapsed before they could even reach the entrance. The medical staff faced an impossible situation. They had no clear information about the chemical that had escaped. Without knowing exactly what they were treating, They could only try to keep people alive. One doctor would later describe the emergency rooms filling faster than patients could be examined. Stretchers ran out, hallways filled, the floors became treatment areas. Outside, the city was falling silent. By sunrise, the scale of the disaster was beginning to emerge. Entire families had been torn apart. Thousands of people were dead. Hundreds of thousands more had been exposed to one of the most toxic industrial chemicals ever released into a populated city. For the survivors, the nightmare was only beginning. When the sun rose over Bhopal on December 3rd, 1984, the full scale of the disaster was still unknown. Bodies lined roads. Hospitals overflowed, families searched desperately for missing loved ones. Even today, the exact number of people who died remains disputed. Official figures reported several thousand deaths in the immediate aftermath. Other estimates, including those from advocacy groups and researchers, placed the long-term death toll significantly higher, with many thousands more believed to have died from illnesses linked to the gas exposure over the years. For the survivors, escaping the cloud was only the beginning. Many were left with permanent lung damage, chronic breathing problems, eye injuries, neurological disorders, and illnesses that would affect them for the rest of their lives. Children exposed to the gas faced lifelong health challenges. Some families continue to report health problems across generations, though the extent and causes of these effects remain the subject of ongoing scientific research. The disaster quickly became an international story. Questions were raised about the safety of the Union Carbide plant, the maintenance of its equipment, and the decisions that had led to one of the worst industrial accidents in history. Years of investigations and legal battles followed. In 1989, Union Carbide reached a settlement with the government of India for $470 million. For many survivors, it was never enough. They argued that the compensation failed to reflect the true human cost of the disaster. Decades later, many former residents and advocacy groups have continued to call for additional cleanup of contaminated areas and greater accountability. The legacy of Bhopal did not end when the gas dispersed. It became a turning point. Around the world, governments and industries re-examined chemical safety standards, emergency planning, and the importance of multiple layers of protection at facilities handling hazardous materials. The lessons learned in Bhopal would influence industrial safety for generations. But for the families who lost loved ones, those lessons came too late. Disasters like Bhopal don't happen because of a single mistake. They happen when warning after warning goes unanswered, when small compromises become routine, when safety becomes secondary, and when people assume that someone else will catch the next problem. The tragedy in Bhopal claimed thousands of lives and forever changed hundreds of thousands more. It forced industries around the world to rethink how hazardous chemicals are stored, how workers are trained, and how communities are protected. Yet for many survivors, the story never truly ended. More than 4 decades later, families still live with the physical, emotional, and economic consequences of that night. Some continue to seek medical care, others continue to seek justice. History remembers Bhopal as the world's deadliest industrial disaster, but behind every statistic was a name, a family, a future that never had the chance to unfold. If we remember anything from Bhopal, it should be this: progress means nothing if it comes at the cost of human life. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy documentaries that uncover the moments that changed history, consider subscribing to Origin Files, because every disaster, every discovery, and every forgotten event has an origin, and every origin has a story. Make sure to like and subscribe for new videos. Thank you.